My daughter was invited to perform at her cousin's wedding but was later smeared. My daughter was invited to perform at her cousin's wedding but was later smeared online because her performance drew more attention than the bride. My F49 cousin F23 asked my daughter F16 to perform at her wedding reception but became bitter upon seeing the positive reception to her act she has since posted about her online, and my daughter is considering quitting original post. I hope this is okay to share here. The reason I'm posting is because of my daughter who's been hurting in the aftermath of a recent performance. I'm sorry for how long this turned out, but any advice from fellow aerialists would be greatly appreciated. My cousin Dana, not her real name, had her wedding 2 weeks ago, and she asked if my daughter could perform at her reception. My daughter Jane, also fake name, has practiced Silk Cell for the past few years at a nearby circus studio, and she's also performed with through the studio at small gigs. She hopes to continue into adulthood and become a professional teacher, but this recent incident has shaken her confidence. She has a private Instagram to document her progress performances, and I only post certain performances on my Facebook, her first gig with the studio and her first recital, to name a few. We were proud of some of our relatives saw her performances through my socials, and they watched her perform at her studio's Christmas recital when we hosted Christmas at our home a few years back, something that surprised her when they visited early to see her. I love how they coordinated that, and Jane said it was her loudest cheering section today. Dana was one of the relatives who came up early to see her Christmas recital, and she's always been super supportive. She asked me if Jane would be willing to perform at the reception, and I asked on her behalf. Jane was honored and excited when I did, and we already had a portable rig for her too. Though we ended up renting a taller one from her studio. Dana got the idea from a YouTube video featuring an aerialist who performed at a wedding reception, and she showed us while requesting white silks and a white outfit. We scoped out the venue and purchased white silks along with a white costume that Dana approved of, and Jane was really excited throughout Jane's event, worked on choreography to a song that Dana requested, and she put a lot of time into it, even asking one of her coaches to help her with it. Dana insisted on paying her for the gig despite Jane not expecting to be paid, and she paid her a few hundred. However, Dana's had a change of heart. Jane received a standing ovation after her performance that surprised her, but we didn't know anything was wrong until Dana went on Facebook a few days later. Dana said she didn't approve of the outfit Jane wore and that she specifically told her to not wear white. She also said my husband and I pressured her to have Jane form and that the performance gave off an unclassy vibe. Lies that my husband and I couldn't believe. We sent Dana numerous costume links, and we purchased the one she liked. That there was also nothing wrong with Jane's performance. Dana was one of the people cheering afterwards. Jane received nothing but compliments afterward, but that she had to see that post after all the work she put into it. The post also had comments disabled for what it's worth. I called Dana to confront her about the lies, but she didn't pick up numerous calls. I then called her parents, who, like us, had received messages about her post, and they said that Dana was wrong. They apologized on her behalf and said they were also. Dana's mom also said that Dana vented to her before making her post. A few days after the reception, Dana told her she regretted asking Jane to perform given the attention, compliments and cheers she received for her. Mom also said that she felt upstaged with Jane wearing white and having to hear how good she was. Dana's parents tried to call her after she made her post, but she didn't answer. After their previous conversation ended with her parents telling her she shouldn't be bitter because she specifically asked Jane to perform. Dana's parents reported the post along with us others, and we've told the truth to those who reached out along with a post to explain our side. Stand up for Jane. We have text proof of sending costume links that Dana chose from. Dana's parents also requested to talk to Jane on the phone to apologize for Dana's behavior, and my husband and I told Jane that Dana was wrong and that we'll be distancing ourselves from Dana permanently. Dana's parents were surprised at her behavior, and we were too, having seen her grow up. Granted, we only see extended family for Thanksgiving and Christmas because we live far, but other relatives were surprised too, as it seemed to come from left field. Maybe there's a side of Dana we'll never know from our limited holiday milestone interactions, but our focus is Jane. We've tried to cheer Jane up by offering to take her to dinner among other activities, but she's been hurting, which is why I'm here. Jane hasn't practiced at home or the studio since the reception, and I don't want to invade her space at her studio by asking telling anyone there in case she doesn't want anyone to know. She asked me to return the white silks and costume after being so excited to receive them. She also said she's going to take an extended break from aerial photography to reconsider if she wants to continue. Aside from aerial photography, she's taken a break from seeing non-aerial friends too, choosing to pretty much keep to herself. We would appreciate any advice from fellow aerialists on how to lift her spirits. We remind her of how we're proud of her along with the many compliments she received, but she's asked for space and to not talk about it. We're going to respect that and let time do its thing, but we'll consider any advice from other aerialists who can relate to the time and work she put in. Sorry for this being so long, but we appreciate anyone who reads and takes the time to reply comments from the first post. Some meet with skin. This is a rare story on this site where everyone except the villain does everything right. If this happened to an, or even an older teenager, she would probably still be hurt but be able to see that Dana is the one with the issue. But at 16 she's still forming her idea of herself. It sounds like she's taking this all on as a reflection of herself. I'm not someone who can be in the spotlight. My desire to perform hurts my family. I would really consider therapy. You could say all the right things to her, and I bet you have, but at 16 it's hard to hear your mom. Alternatively, And I'm sorry to say this, but is it possible that Dana's new husband gave Jane any inappropriate attention that might explain why Dana is so upset when she presumably should have known exactly what to expect? Although certainly wouldn't excuse it if there were any opportunities for Jane and the new husband to be alone. I would really look into that also, because it would also explain why Jane hasn't practiced since the reception, even though the drama started a few days later. It is an extreme place to go, but I would just ask yourself if there was an opportunity for him to be inappropriate, because she is withdrawing from her entire social life. When I was a teenager, driving up to the next city helped me sometimes want to take a drive is still a question I ask myself when I feel stuck and hopeless. Go to the big aquarium and get canola at the outlet mall or something equally random. Maybe she'll open up or get out of her head, or maybe y'all will just have a nice day. Lots of love to you and your family. Mistook 19 for jealousy. Horrible. And Dana has just made herself look bad to anyone that came to the wedding. Also, just for reference, I have performed at multiple weddings and have always had a white costume. It suits the theme and is no way comparable to a wedding dress. Leslie Barb Noob. I always see aerialists in white at weddings. Take comfort in the internet op, and hopefully they can use it as a defense with Dana. If she wants to be that way, just post the receipts of how she asked her what to wear, etc. If she's willing to say that for a 16-year-old, or let it go, it'll pass, because I promise Dana will have some new crazy thing to do very soon. These types always do. Chelsea Sphere 89. The bride is pretty immature and ridiculous. First off, you must see that. Help her see it too if she doesn't already when people show you who they are listening. This is painful but valuable lesson that your daughter is learning very early in her performance teaching career. Just like any obstacle or difficulty in life standing between us and the things we desire, she has the choice to either let her down or let it lift her up and make more determined than ever. If she truly wants this and does eventually go on to be an aerial coach and/or performer, she will face even more challenges. This is only serving to prepare her to face those. Making art is vulnerable sometimes. People won't like it, but that tells you more about them than about you most of the time. Will love dogs? Dana wanted her wedding to be all about her, which is fair to an extent, but obviously not to this extent, and I think she was happy to have a beautiful performance done for her, but forgot that people will congratulate the performer rather than the person who hired the performer. Given how extreme the response was, I would be a bit worried about what someone else mentioned, the outside chance that Dana's husband said he did something inappropriate. But my guess and hope are, it's just a general attention thing. Regardless, it sounds like you and Dana's parents are handling things as best you can. Defend your daughter but respecting her privacy and boundaries sounds exactly like the right thing to do. Well done, you. I would just continue to be there for your daughter in a low-press way and make sure she knows she has safe people to talk to, whatever she's ready. Maybe see if there are any non-aerial activities of any of her friends are down to do with her. Maybe something like rock climbing, which can feel less performance-oriented and attention-grabbing but can still feel fun for an aerialist because there's a fair amount of strength crossover. Hopefully she'll be comfortable with aerial photography again in the future, but I think just trying to help her not socially withdrawing too much would be good for her well-being for now. So sorry she's going through this. She sounds like a great kid and a very talented aerialist. Update before I get into what's happened since in my last post, I want to thank everyone who took the time to comment on 2 pieces of advice really stood out, and I'll get to them shortly since my original post, Dana's Facebook post, is gone. I don't know if she deleted it or if enough people reported it for Facebook to remove it, but we're glad it's gone. She never apologized to us or Jane or even bothered to call, so our position on being permanently done with Dana stands. My husband and I made a post on my Facebook addressing the lies she spewed about our daughter, and we shared a photo proof of Dana's text where she approved of Jane's white costume from links we sent, not to mention the song choice she sent us to. Better yet, Dana's mother reposted it on her account, which really surprised me. Dana's mother wrote that they love Jane's act and that they disapproved of Dana's actions. My husband and I also made sure that Jane was okay with us addressing it on Facebook, and she said it was fine. Normally I wouldn't use Facebook to address drama if aimed at me, but since this involves a minor, we felt the need to address it publicly because she disparaged her publicly, and Jane will remember whether we stood up for her or not. Years from now I had a chance to speak with Dana's mother since my original post on the phone, and she spoke to Dana again after our last call. Dana reiterated how she regretted asking Jane to perform, but she harped on the standing ovation that bothered her the most. Dana told her that she expected Jane to get some polite applause, but that the overwhelming response really set her over the edge because she expected the loudest cheers to be when she and her husband entered the reception, but that went to Jane instead. Dana and her husband also received a great reception when they entered the reception, but Jane's performance did too. And Dana didn't expect it? Heck, even Jane was surprised by it too. She never received a standing ovation from a solo acted before. But Dana's mother believes that if Dana had asked someone to sing who received a similar reception to Dana's, jealousy would have been all the same. Someone suggested seeing if Jane would be interested in speaking to a therapist given how hurtful Dana's comments could be for a teen, and Jane said she's open to it so long as it isn't a counselor at school, because as of now she doesn't want anyone at school or her studio to know about the incident, and she vaguely told the coach who helped her choreograph that it went fine. We will respect her privacy request as it's her right to control the narrative, but in the same vein I suggested therapy for Dana to Dana's mother since her reaction might be a bigger insecurity, and she said she'd ask. The other thing someone suggested was the possibility of Dana's husband or anyone making an inappropriate comment to Jane during the reception that made her shut down and not want to see friends or practice days before Dana's post. My husband decided to ask her, and Jane said no when he did if something happened. Perhaps she'd be more comfortable telling a therapist with time, but on the bright side, she said she might want to try a different aerial studio because she doesn't want to answer questions about how it went or share a video at her home studio, so we will help her find somewhere new as she asked. We hope she doesn't permanently leave her current studio because she has friends and coaches who are supportive and she performs with that studio's troupe at festivals and gigs, but I personally understand the need to sometimes go somewhere where nobody knows you for a break, and we hope that that will help. She hasn't said definitely yet, but if we do, we'll take her. She still wants an extended break from aerial photography in the meantime. But even if when she goes back, she said she may never want to perform again and would rather do it leisurely. One of the reasons she doesn't want to return to her home studio, where she's a part of their troupe, she asked if we'd tell her troupe coach that she won't perform with them anymore if it comes to it and if that's what she wants. Down the road then. We will hopefully have time to heal this wound. And helps her at least keep the friends she is there, but we can only hope. Comments from the update Fluffykins Pie. I'm so glad that you and the rest of the family is backing Jane up as much as possible. Hopefully the support you show her now will eventually win out over Dana's hateful behavior. I also hope that Dana actually gets therapy because going after a minor like that was beyond out of line. Maybe the suggestion coming from her own mom will make Dana reevaluate and make some changes, but regardless, it sounds like you guys are doing great. Job parenting. I'm so sorry this happened, but the absolute best thing you can do is just keep showing Jane that you have her back, and it's her decision what she decides to do from here. We'd be happy to have her back if and when she decides to return to the aerial community. Half Angel, I can see the positives in here that have happened since the last post. Thank you for updating. I have been thinking of you all. It does sound like Jane is still blaming herself, and that will need unlocking as that mindset could spill over into other aspects of her life, stopping her achieving her full potential. She needs to realize that this is bridezilla jealousy that got directed towards her, nothing to do with her, and if an aunt had received that attention, it too would have got squashed. Perhaps angling her to perform is fine, just never a family wedding again. And please ask her again in a few weeks' time if any inappropriate comments were made or done. Sometimes it can take a while to feel comfortable enough to say it out loud. It's not uncommon for boys to take 30 years before they say something. I feel like her coach needs to know that the performance was amazing, but to know that there was fallout afterwards they don't need to know exactly, but it will help explain the actions and ease the road back there for Jane. Please give her a big hug for me. Now to the next story. Story 2. I child-proofed for my in-laws visit. But my husband thought I was overreacting. Now he's gone further after day one with our nephew. Original post. I am 26F, and my husband is 29M. We have been married for 5 years, and we went to Berlin right after marriage since we both found really well-paying jobs. Meanwhile, both of our family's parents, siblings, etc., still live back in Greece, and we usually visit back occasionally now. My husband and I don't have any children, and we don't plan to have it. We enjoy buying expensive things and experiencing things we never got to as children, such as nice furniture in our home, going to exotic restaurants with friends, travel, hobbies, and generally just our lives with each other exactly the way it is. But that's just how my husband thinks. His family is very traditional, and every married couple has at least one kid this time. My husband invited my Bill and C to visit us with their 3-year-old son for 2 weeks. This would be the first time they've traveled with their son, and the first time we would be hosting our nephew at our home. Now our nephew is known to be going through the terrible twos and has been throwing tantrums and breaking things lately, so I did some child-proofing in our home a day before my in-laws were due to arrive. I removed all the glass and ceramic decor. I swapped out our linen tablecloth for a plastic one. I locked up our intoxication devices. I also covered our sofas with a plushy fabric cover. Our sofa's fabric is white cashmere because my nephew likes to snack while watching TV, and we can always take it outside and dust off food crumbs. I also changed my maid's schedule to come in 5 days a week instead of 3, so she can help prepare breakfast and make sure the house is tidy. However, when my husband saw all of my changes, he kind of got upset. He told me he felt that I was preparing our house as if we were hosting messy and uncivilized people and asked me why I don't make these changes when our friends in Berlin who have kids come over for dinner. He also said that he's never seen our friends make these sorts of changes in their own home for their kids. I don't understand this comparison at all. Coming over for dinner for 3 hours and staying at a place for a couple of weeks is very different, and we visited our in-laws enough to see how chaotic their home can get, to the point where my Bill and S keep mostly plastic items in their homes for convenience. AIT top comments. Tulip afternoon NTA. Instead of worrying the entire visit that their kid could ruin something expensive for the visiting parents, can rest assured that the space has been child-proofed as long as all the changes don't make the space uncomfortable. For example, squeaky plastic couch covers or all decor being hidden so the place is bare. I think it makes a lot of sense. You are making the visit less stressful for everyone. Horror reveal 7618. He told me he felt that I was preparing our house as if we were hosting messy and uncivilized people. He's quoting the definition of a toddler. Here Ope is voted NTA update 1. Same post. Edit. We hadn't spoken since we had our fight last night, and my in-laws are supposed to be landing in the morning, My husband brought food from a restaurant I liked and told me he wanted to apologize. He told me he overreacted because he wasn't admitting to himself how different his brother is as a person ever since he became a dad, and that his life is going in a very different direction with more financial hardships too, and that makes him angry and helpless. He told me he misdirected his frustration at me and thought what I did was really nice, especially since he is more finicky than I am. I tried my best to make him feel not guilty and responsible for the lives and decisions of other grown-ups, but I'm so relieved he came around on his own. Update 2 same post edit 2. So guys, it's officially day 1 of the in-laws visit and my husband has now gone an extra step and put away most of the lamps in our house because they are glass and super dangerous for a toddler to be around. We have about 35 co's. We hate ceiling lights. When we picked up our in-laws from the airport and were driving them back, my nephew accidentally poured a bag of chips all over the back seat and floor mats. Everyone just laughed, but I know my husband was horrified inside and now he's been vacuuming the backseat area for 2 hours now. LOL. Oh, and in-laws super appreciated our baby proofing.